The Last Voicemail. Chapter 1, The First Call. Alex sat in his dimly lit apartment, scrolling through his phone absent-mindedly. It had been 2 weeks since his best friend, Mark, had died in a tragic car accident. Alex hadn't fully processed it yet. Mark had always been there, always just a call away. But now, his number was nothing more than a dead contact. At 11:57 p.m., Alex's phone buzzed. A notification from an unknown caller. His heart skipped a beat when he saw the number. It was Mark's. That's impossible. His fingers trembled as he answered the call. Static filled the line, then a faint, distorted whisper. "Alex, help me." The call ended abruptly. A chill crawled up Alex's spine. He checked the number again. Mark's name was still there, as if he had never left. Chapter 2, The Voicemail. The next morning, Alex tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone had hacked Mark's number. Maybe it was a sick prank. But then, another notification. A new voicemail from Mark's number. With shaking hands, Alex played it. At first, there was only silence. Then, a faint noise, like heavy breathing. And then, Mark's voice. "I don't know where I am. It's dark, and I can't move. Alex, please, don't let them take me." Static. Then a distorted scream. Alex nearly dropped his phone. His stomach twisted into knots. This wasn't a prank. Chapter 3, Unfinished Business. Alex spent the next few days researching supernatural phenomena. He scoured online forums, desperate for an explanation. Some posts talked about spirits trying to reach out for closure. Others mentioned echo calls, where the dead attempt to communicate through technology. But one post stood out. If you receive a call from the dead, never answer 3 times. If you do, they can pull you into their world. Alex shivered. He had already answered once. Chapter 4, The Second Call. At exactly 11:57 p.m., his phone buzzed again. Mark's number. Alex hesitated, then declined the call. But his phone buzzed again. And again. Shaking, he answered. "Alex, listen to me." Mark's voice was clearer now, but filled with panic. "They know I'm talking to you. They're coming. Please." The call cut off. The lights in Alex's apartment flickered. A deep, unnatural cold filled the room. Then, 3 knocks at the front door. Slow. Rhythmic. Knock. 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 Chapter 5, The Third Call. The air was heavy with dread. Alex didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, his phone rang again. The third call. Mark's number. Tears burned in Alex's eyes. His instincts screamed at him not to answer. But if Mark was really out there, trapped somewhere, could he just ignore him? His thumb hovered over the screen. Then, static. A deep, guttural voice replaced Mark's. "We found him." The lights in Alex's apartment shut off completely. His phone screen glowed, casting eerie shadows around the room. And then, his reflection in the darkened TV screen wasn't his own. Behind him, something moved. And the last thing Alex heard before the world went black was the sound of his own phone buzzing, again and again and again. The Echo in the Mirror. Chapter 1, The First Glimpse. Emma had always been a rational person. She didn't believe in ghosts, demons, or anything supernatural. But after her twin sister, Lily, died in a house fire 6 months ago, things had changed. She moved into a small apartment in the city, hoping that distance from her past would help. But something felt wrong. It started with the mirrors. At first, it was subtle. Emma would pass by her bathroom mirror and swear she saw something, just a flicker of movement that wasn't hers. But every time she looked back, everything was normal. One night, as she was brushing her hair, she caught a glimpse of something in the mirror that made her freeze. Her reflection was smiling. But she wasn't. Chapter 2: The Voice. Emma barely slept that night. She told herself she was imagining things, grief playing tricks on her mind. But then, the whispers started. At night, when everything was silent, she could hear it. A faint, distant voice. "Emma, why did you let me die?" She sat up in bed, her pulse hammering in her ears. The voice was soft, almost familiar. It sounded like Lily. "No," Emma whispered to herself. "This isn't real." But the whispers didn't stop. Chapter 3: The Messages. The next day, Emma forced herself to ignore it. She went to work, tried to keep her mind occupied. But when she got home, she noticed something strange. Her phone was open to the Notes app. A new message had been typed out. "Look in the mirror." Emma's breath hitched. She hadn't typed that. Slowly, she turned toward the bathroom. The mirror was fogged up, as if someone had breathed on it. And written across the glass, in dripping letters, was a single word: liar. Chapter 4: The Guilt. Emma's mind spiraled. She hadn't told anyone the truth about the fire. That night, she and Lily had argued badly. Lily had accused Emma of trying to move on too fast after their parents died. In anger, Emma had stormed out of the house and left Lily alone. The fire had started minutes later. Emma had always told herself it wasn't her fault. But now Lily's voice was everywhere. "You left me. You let me die. Why should you get to live?" Chapter 5: The Reflection. The final night, Emma woke up to a sound, scraping. Her bedroom mirror was moving. Something was crawling inside it. She scrambled out of bed, her chest tight with panic. The mirror's surface rippled like water, and then Lily stepped out. But it wasn't Lily. Her twin's face was hollow, her eyes sunken and black. Burn marks covered her skin. Emma backed away, shaking her head. "You're not real." Lily smiled, the same smile Emma had seen in the mirror days ago. "Neither are you." Lily lunged forward. The last thing Emma saw before everything went dark was her own reflection, smiling back at her. The Devil's Call. Chapter 1: The Unknown Caller. Daniel had never been a believer in the supernatural. As a journalist, he specialized in debunking myths, ghost stories, and urban legends. He took pride in exposing hoaxes. But what happened to him in the summer of 2023 was something he could neither explain nor forget. It all started with a phone call. At exactly 3 a.m., his phone buzzed on the nightstand. The number on the screen was strange: 000000000. Frowning, Daniel picked it up. "Hello?" At first, there was only silence. Then, a low, distorted voice whispered, "You should not have written that article." Daniel's stomach twisted. His latest article had been about the devil's number, a supposed cursed phone number that, according to legend, would bring misfortune, or worse, to anyone who called it. "Who is this?" he demanded. The line crackled. Then, a deep, guttural laugh. "You already know." The call ended. A chill crept up Daniel's spine. He tried to shake it off. It was probably just a prank. But something about the voice, it didn't sound human. Chapter 2: The First Omen. The next morning, Daniel found a new voicemail on his phone. He hesitated before pressing play. At first, there was only static. Then, that same deep, growling voice. "You invited me in." Daniel's blood ran cold. He deleted the voicemail and tried to focus on work. But all day, he felt like he was being watched. Shadows flickered in his peripheral vision. His office felt colder than usual. And then, at exactly 3 p.m., his computer screen glitched. A single phrase appeared, typed over and over again. "He is coming." Daniel's heart pounded. He yanked the power cord out, but the words remained on the screen. That night, the nightmares began. Chapter 3: The Night Terror. Daniel dreamed of a man with no face, standing at the foot of his bed. The figure whispered in a voice that made his ears ring, "Let me in." Daniel woke up drenched in sweat, his heart hammering. But the worst part? The whisper didn't stop. It was still in his room. "Let me in." Daniel turned on the lights, his breath ragged. The room was empty. But when he glanced at his phone, his blood froze. A missed call from 000000000, and a new voicemail. He didn't want to listen. But his thumb moved on its own, pressing play. At first, just breathing. Heavy. Slow. Then, the voice. "I am inside." Daniel dropped the phone. Then, the closet door creaked open. Chapter 4: The Ritual. Desperate, Daniel contacted Father Miguel, a priest known for dealing with supernatural occurrences. He explained everything: the calls, the messages, the nightmares. The priest listened, his face grim. "You made a grave mistake," Father Miguel said. "By engaging with the call, you accepted the invitation. He now has a hold on you." "Who is he?" Daniel whispered. Father Miguel hesitated. Then he murmured, "Something ancient. Something that exists beyond names." They agreed to perform a cleansing ritual that night. But before they could begin, Daniel's phone rang again. 3 a.m. 000000000. "Do not answer it," Father Miguel warned. The phone kept ringing. The air grew thick, suffocating. Shadows crawled along the walls. Then, the lights went out. Chapter 5: The Final Call. The room filled with whispers. Hundreds of voices. Laughing. Crying. Screaming. Father Miguel began to pray, his voice trembling. Daniel's phone buzzed again. This time, a text message. "Answer, or I will take him instead." The priest suddenly gasped, clutching his throat as if invisible hands were choking him. His face turned red, veins bulging. Daniel had no choice. He grabbed the phone and answered. "Stop," he screamed. Silence. Then, the voice. "You belong to me now." Father Miguel collapsed. The whispers faded. The lights flickered back on. Daniel turned to the priest, who was barely breathing. His eyes, filled with terror, locked onto Daniel. "It's too late," Father Miguel croaked. "You answered 3 times." Daniel's phone buzzed one last time. He looked at the screen. It wasn't a number anymore. Just a single word. "Run." But deep down, Daniel knew. There was nowhere left to run.